Ma'am, kindly share with us your personal reminiscences with Metropolitan His Grace Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios.
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal interactions with him probably span only about 6 to 8 years that I had actual interactions with him. Although as a Malangara Orthodox Church member, we knew who he was. I don't remember exactly when I met him first and had a conversation. Perhaps it was at the St. Thomas Day celebrations where I had choreographed a dance drama under the inspiration of Father Matai in the Hoskas parish. And I believe Tirumeni Apachan was in the audience, and I believe I spoke to him afterwards. This was maybe 89 or 90. And I think that's how the conversation started. And he was like, "Oh, did you do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did this." I think that's the first time I met him, although we knew about him. So in all, I had the blessing of knowing him for about 6 to 8 years. Um, and then I remember one time my father told me about the Cosmic Man and the fact that the book was released. And he got a copy of it. And I tried to open it and read it. And I realized it was not my cup of tea. He's the cosmic man. I am the woman of the earth. Like we spoke completely different languages. It was just way beyond my understanding. The only time I would interact with his brilliance was I would spot check certain scripts or manuscripts sometimes for spelling mistakes, or if I was helping him for a conference, like Jaya Didi said in her interview, we were a team of youngsters, and we did a lot of project management work. So writing address labels, sending them via mail, uh, building agendas, writing out posters, things like that. So I was at a much lower level than the cosmic man, realm that he existed in. So it was a very palpable brilliance, so to speak. Um, what else can I tell you about him? So from a memory, my memory is not as good. It's been so many years, but when I think of him, I think of him as a brilliant man, a brilliant human being, very, very kind, super hardworking. He was always working hard. Like he was going to a conference, he was writing a book, he was, doing this, getting ready for Kurbana or something. He was not, and the one thing I remember about him is he was not scared of going against the norm. So if something was accepted by the society as this is how we should do something, he was really not afraid of questioning it, even though he was so traditionally rooted in the Malangara Orthodox tradition. Even then, there was this dichotomy about him, like he's very traditionally rooted. Um, and at the same time, he was not, opposed to questioning. So that is something I remember very, very, very strongly about him. The other thing I remember is people saying, "Oh my God, he gets angry, and you should stay away." And almost everybody I knew would talk about his anger, you know, uh, persona that has anger. By the time I met him, I think I didn't see much of the anger until he fell ill. And anger can come from a tremendous amount of pain, physical pain. He was suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome, and he wanted to do so much, but his body was not allowing him to do it. So anger can come from there, right? Like some folks in the kitchen were like, "Oh my God, I took food to him and he yelled at us, and I'm scared to go back." Well, he couldn't digest a lot of the food, and sometimes when you're not well, ഞങ്ങള് അസുഖമാണെങ്കിൽ കഞ്ഞി കുടിക്കണം എന്ന് പറയത്തില്ലേ, so you feel like having kanji or whatever, right? So he may want something like that, and the folks in the Aramana kitchen who they were so scared they wouldn't ask him, and there would be misunderstanding, and then he would get angry. And so those are the things I would remember. So I would go down and be like the communication person in between and like, "No, he was not angry with you. He actually just wanted, I don't know, papadam or, like morigari or something like that. So they would be like, oh, that's it. Okay. So sometimes it was just either miscommunication or just tremendous pain, and the frustration. So I always found that his anger was related to something. It was not like he was an angry person. At least it didn't come across to me like that. I know a lot of people say that. Um, and after the stroke, do you remember which year he got the stroke? I don't remember.
I think it is 91 or 92 when he was coming from
92?
going to Oxford for a physics conference, World Conference on Physics.
Okay, so
Yeah.
92, okay. Yeah, I think after that he was a slightly different person, He then had a series of surgeries, a series of hospitalizations. He was at Batra Hospital in and out, things went wrong, the surgery didn't go as expected, and then he was unable to go in public without his wheelchair. A nurse. So there would be a wheelchair, a nurse, and various other bags with, things, medicines, stuff like that. And, it would make any adult feel terrible, right? And he was going to all these important conferences, and, poor thing, he would go in a wheelchair, and any adult would feel like they're losing their dignity, in that scenario. And that was very, very difficult. And he still worked hard. I told you in the beginning, he was super hardworking. Despite all of that, he would just keep working, and the frustration of his body not supporting him was so palpable, right? Um, he used to call his body my brother donkey. So I was like, why do you call it your brother donkey? My body is my brother, lives with me all the time. But he's like a donkey that carries the load. It's a load bearing thing and it's getting tired. So, at some point, I have to leave my brother donkey behind. He would always say that. And one day he was not feeling well, talking about his brother donkey and how he has so much work remaining to do, right? Um, and I was like, Tirmeni Apacha, why don't you ask God to heal you? And in my young mind, I assumed he was much closer to God than I was. I was like, he has direct communication, pick up the phone, talk to God, like he's there. Like, why don't you just ask him to heal you? Like you're struggling so much. And he just kind of looked at me very, very sweetly, I remember, and he smiled and he said, that's not how it works, Joyce. um, and he said, God and I have a great relationship, and we operate at a very different non-tactical level. So these things, we don't bother God with these things, kind of thing, like it was a very, very interesting response for the 18-year-old me to hear, that. um, the other memory I have, or recollection I have, is him feeling very lonely. It is lonely at the top, right? He was the metropolitan. He was the highest authority on the earth for us, for our community. So he's like high up there, Everybody respects him. Everybody kisses his ring, Nobody talks back. So he's up there, but he's all alone, right? Um, I think it made him feel a little lonely. Um, so I feel blessed that he gave me a glimpse into his loneliness. He made me a part of it. And I at least knew that sometimes that was his state of mind. And he was like a child. I mean, children want to play and hug and have ice cream, and he loved children. Children loved him. All of us, are like children. You've heard other interviewees. I've heard other interviews in your series talk about how much he was like children. Um, I think he was like a child himself, and that's what made it easy for people like me to bond with him, even though there was a dichotomy of, oh my God, he's our Tirmeni. And, at the same time, it's like, he's speaking so nicely to me. Like, he seems like my age. He's able to talk to me like that, right? So it was like, okay, Pallilu, I'll behave, like differently. And then in a personal conversation, it was so easy to talk to him. No pretenses, no nothing. No, um, so that was very, 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 very heartwarming. And that's why, Nutan, Sanjay, Abhik, all of us youngsters, it was easy for us to talk to him. And I wish more people in the church knew that it was so easy to talk to him. Like they would have all come and spoken to him. But like I said, it's lonely at the top. And most people don't want, to break that reverence that we are taught. So that's something I remember. What else do I remember? I had a red kinetic Honda. I used to live in Kidwai and I would drive to Tughlakabad and the roads were dark and they were like potholes and, it was like those days, the road from, South Extension to Tughlakabad was pretty bad. I don't know if it's still bad. Is it still bad? It is.
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was always worried that, I'm driving, I'm like a 19-year-old or 20, whatever I was, and I'm driving a scooter and I'm driving at night. And so he would always call my house. And sometimes my mom would pick up and say, "Modu vandillalo," and he would be like, okay, when she reaches, you have to call me back, right? So he was very caring, very caring. He would make sure we were taken care of. He would make sure we all had food when we came to Tughlakabad. We reached home safely, or he would, get his driver to take us back home if it's very, very late. Things like that. Um, I'll just say one last thing in terms of recollections, and I'll hand it over to you for your next question. But in terms of body versus mind, right? I think he was so prolific. Like to me, he was prolific beyond comprehension. Like I could not comprehend how somebody could be so good at so many things at such a complex high level, right? I would just be like, oh, those levels exist. Like, it's just incomprehensible to me. um I was helping, he was writing one of his books, I don't remember which one. And his, after the, I think after the stroke, he couldn't type. So one of us would type. He had lots of people helping him. So I was typing something on his old computer with those big keyboards, and he would speak. So he had this habit of doing this when he's thinking, like he would take his hand and do that on top of his kannadi. So he was like doing that, and he would say, and I was like typing really fast. Taka, 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 taka. I don't even know what I'm typing. I'm just copying and typing, not really understanding anything that I was typing. It was like it would just flow. And I remember one day he said, Joyce, I have so much to write. I have so much to put out on paper that time is scarce. I think my life is not long enough to put all of this on paper. And he was just like, it would just flow. He said he wakes up in the morning and ideas and sentences flow out faster than anybody could type or he could write. I told him many times, just record, like get a tape recorder and just press the record button and just blah, 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 just speak. We'll come later on and we'll type it. And then he was like, tape recorder every day, cassette, like it was just the logistics was not happening. And we were not there all the time. So, we would just give an idea and, maybe meet him 2 months later. So it was, and he tried to get a fast typist to help with the content, but it was just what he spewed out was so complete. I'm sure the poor typist had a very hard time like keeping track of it. So yeah, those are the recollections that I have of my brief 6 to 8 years with him.
Thank you, ma'am. Uh, Ma'am, how has he influenced you in establishing a career in dance?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you know how it is, right? In India, most of us, our parents tell us you have to become a doctor or an engineer. You don't have careers in dance or music or guitar playing or anything, right? So it was always something I wanted to do professionally, but I was also very, very interested in academia. So I myself was like left brain, right brain, 50-50. Um, so I don't know when he saw me dance. Maybe it was the St. Thomas Day event. And he was probably, other than Matayachan, who encouraged me to do the dance drama, he was probably the only one who supported my Bharatanatyam journey. You know, Bollywood people were okay, but Bharatanatyam, the whole idea for everybody else was it is sacrilege that I should bow down before another god, Old Testament, all of that. So it was very hard for me to convince the regular church members and priests that, by doing Bharatanatyam, I'm not insulting anybody. I'm not taking away from your faith. I'm not, doing anything horrible. Um, so he was like very, very supportive, and he said, no, don't listen to that. That's not true. Art is art, whether it's in temples or churches or on billboards or on the streets. And he understood that, and he presented me at the 50th anniversary of the Orthodox Church in Delhi, and I think 2000 year anniversary, as a primary and the only artist. So I was the only artist at the inaugural event, and I was the kickoff artist. Um, and that I told you in the beginning of this interview, right? He wasn't shy of going away from normal, what is called norm, right? So I think a lot of people objected. They said, you're celebrating 50 years of the Orthodox Church in Delhi. Why would you have somebody do Bharatanatyam as an inaugural event? And why would you give her so much importance? And she's this young 21-year-old kid. Like, what is this? Um, but I almost thought it would be cancelled, but it wasn't. He stood his ground and he said, no, she's a child of our community. She's part of our diocese. She's talented. She's doing something. She has achieved something. We should celebrate. So I think his idea was art is art. If somebody in our community, in our diocese, is good, and has reached a level in the world, then we should celebrate and support that person. So that was pretty encouraging. Not pretty, like it was extremely encouraging for me. I wish at that time I was mature enough as a dancer, as an artist, to choreograph maybe a Christian theme and maybe present that to prove a point that this art form is like it's an infrastructure, it's a language of communication. um, and Natya Shastra existed before a lot of these religions existed. So it's a I guess religion agnostic script to some extent that can be used for describing anything and everything. um, so I wish I had the opportunity to do that at that time, and I was mature enough dancer. I did so later in my career as a choreographer, but not then. Um, he was also the chief guest for my Arangetram, so I was. I think it was the most blessed thing, and my guru Leela Sampson was extremely happy that he was the chief guest. She was very happy, and I think Tirumeni Appachan was also very proud of me. I have a picture. I think I sent you that picture. I'll send you a picture. Thankfully, I have a few pictures, so I will do that. And that is something I cannot forget. I think that was before he didn't come in a wheelchair for my Arangetram. I remember that. So he walked. I think he had a stick at that time. But I was very happy. And he continued to come to all of my shows. To one of my shows, he actually came in a wheelchair. He was very, very sick. Two nurses had to come with him, but he still came. And I was like, why did you come? You have seen me before. You don't have to come. He's like, no, I just wanted to get out. I'm in the sick bed for so long. I just wanted to get out and do something joyful. Uh, So I was like, oh my God, you thought my dance was joyful. That's great. Thank you for coming. So that's the kind of support, he gave for my dance itself. Um, and if I'm not wrong, I'm not 100% sure, but the time that we were doing the conference in Rishikesh, there was a priest. He used to sing. And I think Tirumeni Apachan kind of encouraged him to go for Carnatic music classes. And he was very, very kind of
It was
encouraged.
Father MP George. Father MP
No,
George from Kerala
അവിടെ
came to Delhi. From there on, he went to study in Russia, and
no.
he studied music. Tirumeni sent him to Russia to learn music. Carnatic. First, he learned Carnatic from India, and then he
Huh.
learned Russian. Yeah, Russian. Then he went to Russia and learned did his higher studies in music. And that's why
No.
I said Tirumeni established a music school in old seminary Kottayam. So he was put in
Right,
charge of that. Yeah. So he
right.
was
I
put in
didn't
charge.
know. Yeah, I didn't know that until you told me. Um, for some reason, I thought his name. Maybe there was another person also who because
Shahjichan was
he.
present. Shahjichan was
No.
present. Shahji K. Georgian was present there. Yeah.
Okay. So he was not just dance. So what I'm trying to say is not just dance. He was just so interested in, and he never said, you're a priest, you can't dance or do music or like he was so encouraging about that. And he was hoping that the Carnatic vocal training would bring more robustness into the music for the liturgy. So liturgical music can be made more beautiful and more technically appealing, or like just more robust. I think his intent was to bring that into the liturgy. So it's not just Bharatanatyam or Mohiniyattam. He just loved all traditional arts very, very, very deeply. So I miss sharing my work now. I'm a much more mature artist. I have my own nonprofit called Socially Conscious Artists Foundation. What we do is we bring art to create and foster art around social justice themes, to bring about change, to galvanize change and to bring awareness. So immigration, domestic violence, mental health. If he was alive today, he would have been so happy to see me do this, right? Because I'm helping bring change in the society and I'm still dancing. So I think he would have been very, very proud. I think he is proud. I think he is. So in terms of, you asked about career in dance, right? So my career in dance and academic career, they both went side by side. Um, and another influencing point in terms of career is, after my undergrad, the government of India, um, so so I was always interested in learning anything and everything that caught my fancy. And my dad used to call me Jill of all trades and queen of none. So in addition to wanting to be, what, let me see, marine biologist, dancer, singer, actress, air hostess, എല്ലാം try ചെയ്യണം. At that time, the government of India came up with this new thing. The Indian Army had just announced that they would be starting their first batch of commissioned women officers, commissioned officers. Ainakati Mumbai, there was no women commissioned officers. There was these medical corps existed, but not in combat or non-combat roles. And I was very excited. I was physically fit. I was like, let's do this. I gave the entrance exam, I cleared. I gave the second exam, I cleared. And then it was time for me to go do the physical test. So we were getting ready to book tickets, and it so happened that Tirumeni Apachan had some project or whatever, and I went to help him. So he said, എന്താ ചെയ്തോണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നെ? What are you doing? അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, I'm applying for this and I've got to go for this physical thing. He had like this blank expression on his face. Like he didn't show, like he didn't show that he was not happy with it, but he didn't show happiness either. So he was like, why do you want to do it? I'm like, I don't know, sounds like fun. He's like, you don't do things just because it sounds like fun. You should have a plan, I said, well, I want to be the first set of women army officers and, a first batch, yay, women power, all of that. Um, and then he used to do this thing where he would keep his hand on my head and he would just rotate my head like this. Pedi, pedi, in a circles, chutti, 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 chutti. And I would always sit on the floor. Appa tirmeni appacha ingane chair lirikiyana. I would be at his feet, tare, floor. So my tala would be at his knee level, right? So he would just keep his hand and keep rotating. Then he said, so you want to join the army? And I'm looking up thinking, uh-oh, am I going to get scolded or is this a positive thing? I don't know. And then he says, you're very intelligent. You're very smart. I was like, thank you. And he said, you are destined to do something great. And I was like, is that the army? And he started laughing. Like he laughed so loudly. Like he had a very, his entire tummy would move when he laughed. So it was like a Santa Claus. I used to call him Santa Claus. A Santa Claus laugh. Ha, ha. So he said, no, um, I don't think this is for you. Bangera gently, like he didn't say Vanda, Ponda, or nothing like that. He said, I don't, and he's still rotating my head, so I'm doing this. So I'm like, I don't think this is the right choice. And the moment he said that, I was like, oh, now what should I do? Like, I cleared all the exams. Should I go? Should I not go? Um, he used to call me monkey brain. He said, you have a monkey brain. Your ideas are just, it's just going everywhere. You need to calm down and you need to think. You can do great things. You're destined to do great things, but you have to control your monkey brain. Um, so that night I went home and I told my parents, I said, Amma, Tirveni appacham parnju venda. My mom was so happy. She was like, oh, I was not interested in you doing this, but engane vendannu parayunne. How do I say no? So he's like, Tirmeni Apachan has said, decision has happened, no question, no discussion in our house. If he said so, that's it. Um, so yeah, that's my third bit of information on what is the impact he had on my career. And then later on, I told him, okay, I am signing up to do my PhD, my master's, and after my master's, and he said, I think that's the right path. I think that's a good thing for you to do. Um, so yeah, that's how he affected my dance and my academic career.
Ma'am, what was the vision of Mar Gregorios about the world that you understood in relation with the experience that you had while talking to him? What was his idea, perspective about the world in general?
When you say about the world, what do you mean? About what the world should do or what the status quo is? Can you explain a little bit more about?
Like his vision about the world, like how are we moving in the right path, or what are the challenges we are facing now, or how should we actually go along together as all communities?
So interestingly, like I said, right? I was young. We had a very friendly kind of relationship with Tirmeni Apachan. So he never talked to us about these big philosophical things. I mean, Jaya Didi might tell you more about it, but so I doubt if I'm the right person to answer that question. I knew him mostly through my teens till my late 20s, and we focused on the volunteer work, that we did. But generally speaking, he believed he believed in the unification of humanity. He believed all religions should work together. He was a very strong proponent of religious leaders bringing harmony because he felt like if you are a bishop and you have a flock, the flock listens to you. So if you guide them in the right way and promote universal harmony, it's a very, very powerful tool, in addition to legislation, um, it's such a powerful way to do that, which is why he was very, very insistent on bringing different religious leaders together in different conferences so that we could all learn and understand what other religions bring to the table, what are the good things that we can learn from them, and how we can all work together. So he definitely was not, in support of any divisive thought when it came to religion. And he was never elitist about his religion. He never felt like, oh, Christianity is better than everything else, or Malangara Orthodox is better than, or other people think like that, but he never thought like that. He never spoke like that, and he encouraged us not to think like that.
Ma'am, what was Mar Gregorios' understanding, or have you seen his prayer life? How strong was his relationship with God?
I won't say I have seen his prayer life because I never was at Tughlakabad. I would just visit. The only time we were all in the same location for many days was during conferences, but then I was not privy to his prayer life. Um, but he told me that he wakes up at like 3 or something one time and spends many, many hours just apparently talking to God. That's how he explained it. He said, I spend a lot of time talking to God. We have nice conversations. um, and he always told me, you know, relationship with God is a one-on-one relationship. It's a entity to entity relationship, and everybody has a different relationship. So me and God, different. Tirumeni Apachan and God, different. Different intensity, different closeness, different guidance, different frustrations. Um, so I remember, I was doing my PhD fieldwork in Madras, and I was living in a small apartment with a bunch of other dancers. And one day I was waking up from an afternoon nap, and I had this, at the corner of the room, there was this. I had a vision. I think people call it a vision. Basically, I just opened my eyes, and there was this bright golden light in a place where there's no window. So I was like, what is that light? Somebody, I was like, maybe my roommate opened the window or something. So I got up and looked, the window is actually there, the door is also there. So I was like, wait, why is light coming from here? I looked back, and I could see I could see the silhouette of like, like my hair, long curly hair, and some flowy robes. It was a human form. I couldn't see the face. And I kept staring at it, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And then it disappeared. So when I came back to Delhi, I told Tirumeni Apachan, I was like, hey, you know what? That happened. Do you think that was Jesus? And he was like, Karanering. And he thought about it. And then he again put his hand on my head and he did the circles. And he says, Adu Chalapam, I must have been an angel, must have been an archangel. Um, so yeah, like he was very cool talking about visions and talking about, uh, you know, I had a near death experience and I told him about that. And um, he was like, yeah, it happens. Like, it's all good. So he never, my vision or my near death experience or my out of body experience, he never acted surprised. Like he said, oh, it was all so cool. Um, so he was like, you develop whatever relationship you want with God. If that means this for you, great. If that means something else, then so that's what I got from him. Just to be very honest and open in your heart, um, and to allow grace to flow. Just like don't have any physical blocks or mental blocks or judgment and anger and resentment, because if you have those things, then nothing flows through you. uh, so yeah, That's what I got from him about developing a strong relationship with God.
Ma'am, please, as you have attended many conferences along with Tirumeni, that was of an international standard. So kindly mention to us, ma'am, a few of the conferences that you have attended and the insights that you have received from them.
It's been a while. It's been a while. So insights, let's see. So in 1995, February, this, I have the dates for this, February 21st to 27th, there was an international consultation of medical anthropology and alternate systems of healing in Surajkund, Haryana. I had just finished, or I was still doing my PhD in anthropology. So medical anthropology was of deep interest to me. So this was extremely wonderful to see so many systems of healing. We had Reiki, we had pranic healing, we had what else? We had Ayurveda, homeopathy, Unani medicine, all kinds of medicine stalls, and there were practitioners who came, and we could go and get healed. We could go and just like do trials and tests. It was super amazing. Um, I think I tried pranic healing. I think for my knee pain as a dancer, I had knee pain. I tried that. But most of the times I was running around organizing things, making sure people had food, and all the people who had come from abroad, we had to take them out for shopping. And so most of the times I was doing that. But that was one. And then we talked about the Rishikesh, the World Concord of Religions at Rishikesh. That is where Sonalji had come to perform with her group. One of my friends, Meera, is also in that group. So that was great. Like he always had this, classical dance kind of a section. So for this big conference, Sonalji is like, she's like super senior, great guru. And Sonalji and Tirumeni Appachan have been friends for a very long time. I think they met in somewhere in Europe, Germany, perhaps. So they had a great bond, and he would invite her. So she performed there, and that was very very interesting. Like you know, Rishikesh is such a deeply energetic, historic, religious place. There were folks who came and did aarti for Tirumeni Appachan. They put tika on him, and it was just so nice, right? Like different religions just coming together and doing their own rituals for everybody. That was really really awesome. And what else happened? Like I think we had yoga in the morning, and folks from different faiths would kind of present their practice, and we could participate. Um, there also, since I was a youth volunteer, I was running around most of the times, but at least I saw things from a distance. The third event I have on my little piece of paper here is the Indian Orthodox Church, 50 years in the national capital and 2000 years in India. That happened at Mavlankar Hall. Baba Virsa Singh was there, the other Tirumeni.
Yeah, the head of the church. He was the head of the church. Basilius Marthoma Matthews the second.
Yes, he was that Tirumeni has so much grace. Like
Yeah. We call him
eh,
Angel Baba. We call him Angel
ah,
Baba.
oh my
Yeah,
God, he
the
feels
grace
like
is.
that. You stand next to him, he just feels, yeah, he feels angelic. He even looks angelic. So he came, Baba Virsa Singh came, some Tibetan monks came. The list is really long. I mean, I hope you find the list somewhere, but the first 10 rows was all like religious leaders, and then regular people were sitting behind. That's a lot. And it was such a pleasure to perform for all of them. Then another event I remember is it wasn't organized by Tirumeni Appachan, but I think he had some partnership. This was 1996 March in Kamani Auditorium. It was called the International International Temple of Understanding, the Indian chapter. And it was this multimedia production called Patterns of Faith in India, from Vedas to voluntarism. And I think he suggested that I should perform there. So I ended up performing there also, and he came to visit, if I remember correctly. The last event I remember at this point in my life is there was some event in Delhi where the Dalai Lama came. And I don't know what event it was. I remember this big field kind of a place. We had erected all these pandals. वो दिल्ली में पंडाल नहीं होते, रेड और ब्लैक वाले, बड़े बड़े पंडाल लगे हुए थे, and lots of chairs. And I remember the Dalai Lama sat with Tirmeni Apachan and somebody, and the Dalai Lama was giving blessings. And there is a traditional Tibetan ceremonial scarf. I think it's called khatak or something like that. And it is offered as a sign of respect or a sign of gratitude or a greeting. And I remember all the volunteers got to line up at the end, and we could go meet the Dalai Lama and take his blessings. And I remember kneeling down, and he just kept his hand on our head, and I felt like something was washing, like there was this, like a puff of energy just going like that. It was so, it was quite amazing. It was quite amazing. And then he put that white scarf on my neck. I still have it with me. And immense gratitude to Tirmeni Apachan, right, for allowing us kids even close to such luminaries. Like, they're international stars, and we were like youngsters floating around, running around in the heat and sweat. So much gratitude to him, for allowing all of us, the entire volunteer team, to be in such close proximity to such spiritually powerful luminaries. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
One picture of the same event is being kept at the Delhi Orthodox Center. That His Holiness the Dalai Lama is giving the that white scarf to Tirmeni, and is receiving it.
Oh,
That picture
oh,
is being
really?
framed and is kept at the Orthodox Center.
Ah,
Yes, yes.
nice, nice. I haven't seen that.
Mar Gregorios explained to you the importance of Gregorian chants.
He didn't explain anything. He just said, listen. I don't know what the context was, but one day he just said, can you take that cassette player? Okay, got the cassette player. Can you take that cassette? Okay, can you rewind side A? And then he just lay down and he said, you sit there and you listen. That's it. He just played. And when you're 22, 23, you don't have the patience. So I listened to it for like 2 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I do? I can't even run away. He's gonna know, like I'm sitting there. And then he opened one eye and said, don't go, stay here. So he knew my monkey brain was wanting to run away. He said, just sit here and listen. So I think he believed in experiential music. So he didn't give me an introduction before he played it. He played it first, made me listen. And then he told me that it calms him a lot. And he said it calms my mind and it calms my soul, and that I should listen to it. So, and I think he gave me the cassette that evening. He said, take it with you, listen to it, but bring it back. I said, okay. And then I brought it back the next week, and then I bought some myself. And I eventually just loved listening to it. And eventually I started meditating to it. And he didn't explain anything. And often he would ask me, I love singing. Like I said, I wanted to be a singer, dancer, everything, right? So often he would say, oh, if you want to sing, just sing something. Okay. When I'm taking a break, you can sing. Not when I'm working. When I'm taking a break, you can sing. So sometimes, especially after he became sick, he had to lie down. He couldn't sit for a long time. So he would work for half an hour, then he had to lie down, then he would work, and then again he had to lie down. And there would be a nurse to help him and everything. So he would often ask me to sing, and I would sometimes sing, old Malayalam songs like what Alli Ambal Kadavil and all that. He loved that. Um, or some dance songs, or even some Jim Reeves or some English songs. Like I would often sing, and my job was to think after the stroke or after one of the surgeries. I think his ankles were always swollen. ഭയങ്കര നീരായിരുന്നു രണ്ട് കാലിലും ഭയങ്കര നീരായിരുന്നു. So my job was to take Korambu oil and apply. So I would sing and apply Korambu, sing and apply Korambu. And then if he sleeps off, I would just, you know, I would just touch his feet, do one pranam, and quietly leave. So those are just such beautiful, beautiful moments.
Ma'am, if I say to mention any three qualities of Mar Gregorios that can inspire the present and the coming generation, I know this will be a very big task for you because three is very short in number. So, but as for the interview and for the time scarcity that we have, ma'am, any three qualities that you believe that I think yes, this will impact these. At least these three qualities may impact the present generation very much. Can you mention three qualities, ma'am?
His qualities that we should also
Yes.
imbibe.
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
so he had this the quality of intense brilliance and luminescence, um, and that luminescence comes with a desire to, it's outgoing energy. That brilliance and luminescence goes out as knowledge share. um, I don't know how to explain it, but that's, if we could all do that, that would be great. His ability to love humanity, and I mentioned this before, right? His ability to love human beings and not different religions, despite being the head of the church, right? It's kind of paradoxical to some people. You're the head of the church, you should just love the church and that particular religion. But no, his ability to go beyond and love humanity is something all of us need to learn. Um, and he always said all religions lead to the same energy. It's the same energy. You need to focus on that. So that would be the second thing. And the third thing is, I don't, I, I mean, that's what I took. I'm not sure. Find your dreams and just execute it, right? Like his career went all over the place. He could have stayed in Ethiopia. He could have stayed in Princeton. He didn't. Um, so you have to know what drives you, um, what your mission in life is, and then just find your dream and execute it. I think those would be the three things that I would I would bring up. And this is your last question, right? This was your last question, right? So I just want to finish off with one thing. He believed in cosmic universality, right? I've told you this before, and it's there in Cosmic Man. And he taught me a shloka from the Upanishads. One day he literally made me sit down and he said, "Have you heard this?" I said, "No." And he said, "I want you to listen to this and I want you to memorize it now." I was like, okay. So that's the shloka that says, that is the, Purnamada Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So he taught me this, and I just wanted to recite it for you in his honor because I sat down there and he made me memorize it. And it says, that which is there, the cosmic whole, is whole. It's infinite, whole, and perfect. And this manifestation comes from there, and therefore, this is also infinite, whole, and perfect. Even though this whole, perfection came from there, nothing went away. Like इसमें से कुछ नहीं गया. That is still whole. When you take something from something, there's a gap. But this cosmic whole is so great. There is no gap, right? And it remains infinite. It remains infinite. It remains whole. It remains perfect. And that's just what it is. That's just what life is. That's just what the world is. That's what you and I are. That's the underlying, that's the bottom line of it all, and that's how I want to close this conversation about Tirumeni Appachan. It all it all boils down to this shloka, pretty much. And I'm so grateful that he taught me this. I still say it in every dance class, after class, I will say it. My students know it, you know. So he lives every day in my class, you know.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I could easily get that how much you miss him and how much enthusiast you were. You were a seeker of wisdom and true knowledge, and you were so blessed to have someone of this great stature. Spiritual being, also a person who has a very wider and broad perspective about life, a Metropolitan Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios. And we are very honored to have you interviewed, ma'am, and you spoke from your heart. It was not
Thank
just about an academic exercise or an intellectual exercise. You spoke what it really meant, and that is what we actually require from the interview sessions. And ma'am, please pray for me because this is a very huge enterprise. We are bringing a
Absolutely.
lot of people together, and most of them are they have passed away from this world. Those who were the contemporaries of Tirumeni, and only the young ones who were present at that time are only surviving. So, and they are almost nearing to 60s. So even that is a very big task. So to bring them together from different parts of the world to know them, but I believe that through all your prayers, we'll be able to do it. Yes, ma'am.
Aren't you glad you caught me before I died? No, my prayers are totally with you. Best of luck. I wish, I wish we had done more. I wish somebody had interviewed me in 96 or 98 or 2000. I would have recollected more. But I also feel like now I'm able to give you a much more mature interpretation of what he meant to me rather than a 20-year-old's interpretation of, what it was. Um, I wish you the best of luck. If you need me, I have a whole bunch of other pictures that I discovered after I scanned and sent them to you. So I have more pictures. I will send them to you. If you need any help in any other way, please let me know. And thank you so much for doing this. And thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for your patience. I know we have been trying to schedule this for like a year and a half. So I truly appreciate your patience. Much, much, much gratitude.